In the early 1960s, in the district of Mlanje, in what was then called Nyasaland, the Knights belonged to something else. Today we know that country as Malawi, in southeastern Africa. The land sits beneath a great granite mountain, green with tea and soft with mist. Families slept in open huts, walls of mud and grass, with doorways little more than woven mats. For generations, this arrangement was ordinary, and it was safe. Then the danger came in the dark, and it came on four legs. People woke to screams that ended far too quickly. By morning, someone was simply gone. There were drag marks in the dust, and almost nothing else was left behind. The frightened villagers named the culprit at once. It was the spotted hyena, an animal they had always despised. For as long as anyone could remember, the hyena had been a joke, a coward, a scavenger that ate whatever braver animals killed. But something had changed in Mlanje that season. The joke had begun hunting people in their sleep. To understand why this was so shocking, you have to understand the hyena's reputation. Across much of Africa, the spotted hyena was treated with open contempt. It was the animal of folk tales, greedy and foolish, laughed at around the fire. Hunters saw it trailing lions, waiting patiently for the scraps. Farmers saw it slinking at the edge of the firelight, never daring to come closer. The very sound it makes, that rising whoop and giggle, seemed to confirm the verdict. Here was a creature too weak to kill, surviving only on the leftovers of others. Science of the period mostly agreed with the villagers. For decades, textbooks described the spotted hyena as the classic scavenger, a cleanup crew with strong jaws and very little courage. That image was comfortable for everyone who held it. It let people sleep in open huts without fear. In Mlanje, that comfort was about to collapse completely. The animal at the edge of the firelight had been badly underestimated for a very long time. The truth about the spotted hyena is far stranger than the folktales suggest. It is not a failed predator. It is one of the most capable hunters on the entire continent. Studies in later decades showed that hyenas kill the large majority of what they actually eat. They do not merely follow lions and wait around. Often the lions follow them. Stealing kills the hyenas worked hard to bring down. They hunt in coordinated groups, running prey for miles, reading weakness with patience and real intelligence. And then there are the jaws. A spotted hyena has one of the strongest bites of any land mammal alive today. It can generate enough force to crush the thigh bone of a full-grown buffalo. It can shear through hide, muscle, and skull with terrible ease. Their digestion is just as brutal as their bite. They consume bone, hooves, and horn, dissolving material that would choke almost any other animal. This is not the equipment of a humble scavenger. This is the equipment of a true apex carnivore. Now place that animal beside a sleeping human, separated only by a thin grass wall. A person asleep makes no fire, no noise, and no defense at all. To a hyena, testing the dark, that is not a threat, that is an opportunity. Researchers believe the Mlanje attacks may have followed a hard season, when wild prey grew scarce and the animals grew bold. Hunger changes behavior, and a hungry predator takes risks it would normally avoid. Once one hyena learned that the huts held easy food, the behavior could spread. Hyenas learn from one another, and they remember what they learn. A single success at one hut could teach a whole clan where the soft prey lived. What began as a desperate test became, by some accounts, a deadly habit. The animals returned, night after night, dragging victims through the open doorways before anyone could wake. The despised scavenger had finally revealed what it truly was. For the people of Mlanje, the response was first terror, and then flight. Whole families abandoned their homes and crowded together for safety. Some villages emptied almost overnight. The huts left standing and silent. People stopped sleeping anywhere near the walls. They built fires and kept watch in shifts, listening for that low whoop in the grass. Mothers held their children through the dark, afraid to close their eyes for even a moment. The fear was not superstition. It was a rational answer to a real predator that had learned a new and horrifying skill. Word of the attacks eventually reached the colonial authorities, and the reaction was slow but serious. Officials organized hunts, sending armed men to track and kill the hyenas blamed for the deaths. Bait was set out in the bush. Patrols moved through the darkness at night, rifles ready. Records from the period describe a coordinated effort to break the pattern of attacks and calm a population on the edge of panic. It was not a clean or simple campaign. Hyenas are clever and nocturnal, hard to find by day and dangerous to corner. The hunters faced an enemy that knew the land far better than they did. Over time, the killing of suspected animals slowly reduced the attacks. Whether every guilty hyena was found is impossible to say now. What mattered to the survivors was that the long nights of being hunted came to an end. The villages were rebuilt under the mountain. People returned to the huts they had fled. But the memory did not fade, and neither did the lesson buried deep inside it. Here is the part most people do not know. The Mlanje attacks did far more than frighten a single region. They forced a quiet correction in how scientists understood the spotted hyena. The image of the cowardly scavenger, comfortable and convenient, simply could not explain what had happened. An animal that drags grown people from their beds is not living on scraps. In the decades that followed, careful field research transformed the hyena's reputation entirely. Biologists watched clans hunt with strategy and stamina. They measured those astonishing jaws up close. They documented complex societies led by females, with social bonds and learning that rivaled many primates. The spotted hyena emerged as something far more formidable than the folktales had ever allowed. It was, and still is, a genuine apex predator, intelligent, adaptable, and deeply misjudged. Total reassurance is impossible, because the same intelligence that makes the hyena remarkable also makes it dangerous when it learns the wrong lesson. Attacks on humans remain rare, but they are not myths. Where wild prey collapses and people sleep unprotected, the old danger can quietly return. To be honest, what struck me most was how long the truth had sat in plain sight. The animal everyone laughed at had always been fully capable of this. We simply preferred the comfortable story instead. That, in the end, is the strange gift of Mlanje. A tragedy finally stripped away a long and convenient lie. The hyena had never been the clown of the savannah at all. It had merely been patient enough to let us believe that it was. But the mountain still stands over Malawi, green with tea and soft with mist. The huts are rebuilt, and most nights now pass without any fear. But somewhere in the grass at the edge of the firelight, the spotted hyena is still there. It is still listening, still learning, still far stronger than its reputation ever suggested. Humans declared the animal a coward, and the animal said nothing at all. Then, for a few terrible years, it answered them. We were wrong about what waited in the dark, and the dark never needed our permission to prove it. Long after the hunts had ended and the panic had faded, the hyena simply continued, exactly as it always had, beneath the silent mountain. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the dark, to uncover the terrifying truth about the Mlanje hyenas. The story of these deeply misjudged apex predators reminds us that nature is always listening, learning, and far stronger than we often believe. If this chilling tale changed your perspective on what truly waits at the edge of the firelight, please leave a like on this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to support our work and help us bring more untold stories to light. Turn on the notification bell so you will never miss our next deep dive into the fascinating and dangerous mysteries of the wild.